From WFIU in Bloomington, Indiana, I'm Kate Young, and this is Earth Eats Wild.
Wild Rice Camp started a long time ago. It actually started thousands of years ago with our ancestors having a real-time lifeway.
We have a jam-packed show for you today, featuring traditional foodways from the original inhabitants of this land. Food from lands far away, Anatolia and Mongolia, as well as right here in our own backyard. Wild rice harvested in a canoe, sumac by the side of the road, and for dessert, Pawpaw ice cream. All that and more is just ahead, so stay with us. Thanks for listening to Earth Eats Wild. When I think of foraging, I think of things like berries and nuts and mushrooms, leaves, maybe flowers. But I don't usually think of grain. Or I didn't until I learned of the wild rice that is native to the waterways in regions that we currently call Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. The wild rice is also known as manuman. In the fall of 2024, I had the chance to talk with Nicole Keith and Kevin Harris of the Nottawasepi Huron Band of the Potawatomi, also known as NHBP.
Bonjour, Nicole Keith, Indigenous Cause. I am the Food Sovereignty Coordinator for the Nottawasepi Huron Band of the Potawatomi. I currently live on Pine Creek Reservation, and I am Eagle Clan, and I am Potawatomi.
Welcome, Anishinaabe. My name is Kevin Harris, Culture Specialist of the Nottawasepi Huron Band of the Potawatomi.
They were visiting to share a film about the wild rice with the First Nations Educational and Cultural Center on the IU campus in partnership with the IU Media School. I asked Kevin to start our conversation by sharing a bit of history about where they live.
Bonjour, Ginwa, Wawa Smo Gijik, Indigenous Cause, Shika and Dodem, Megadi ZB, Western Dochbia, Bode Wadmi, Nadwe ZB, Niyuk and Dibidagwis. We come from the Great Lakes region. We're from the Nottawasepi Huron Band of the Potawatomi. We're only one of 12 bands of the Potawatomi, and we share territory with the Three Fires, which is the Ojibwe and the Odawa, and there was evidence that there were other tribes in the area as well, but we always refer to Michigan as the Three Fires Nations. Unfortunately, the relatives got removed at a certain time in history, but Michigan is our home, the Great Lakes, the home of the food that grows on water.
In the film, they showed scenes from a wild rice camp that they organize on their reservation. I wanted to hear more about that.
Wild Rice Camp started a long time ago. It actually started thousands of years ago with our ancestors having a real-time lifeway. Wild Rice Camp allows us to revitalize that old time, and it starts with ceremony. Sunrise, we strike that fire up, and we have our sunrise ceremony, and we pray, and we understand our people, and we learn our teachings, pipe ceremony, and have that duality for man and woman with our water ceremonies, and the men striking that fire, because we're a Bode Wadmi, fire keepers, and then we transition into an activity, the work. We start to gather our warriors, our rice warriors, and they go out on the water, and they start to scout where they can go, where the rice is plentiful, and they start there. And then after they scout for the rice, they collect the rice, and they bring it back to the ceremony, the land, the camp. And then the ones that aren't able to get on the water or don't have any space to come out, they're on the sites, and they're making tools, and they're making baskets, and they're all staying busy, and then some are cooking. And we have this whole revitalization of that old time, that whole spirituality is existing. And it started with that fire, that tobacco being lowered down, and we expand into this revitalization, which all you see is smiles and see the culture being what it's supposed to be.
Being celebrated.
And celebrated and honored.
And then learning at the same time how to be respectful of that plant, of that food, not to take too much, and to leave some for the animals and for next year's harvest.
What are some of the tools that are used in the harvesting and the collecting and the kind of processing of the wild rice?
Well, the first tool is your heart. The second tool is your sema. You offer your tobacco first before you take anything from the earth. It's a trade amongst us human beings and Mother Earth. And then the next thing is the tools that help us collect the rice. And we call them knocking sticks made out of cedar. And is a traditional way of how you knock the rice in the canoe. And then in our location,
don't forget about the G-man.
The G-man is the canoe. So you need something to float on the creek, right? And then we have our what we call Potawatomi sticks, because our rice is so different from other rice, the lake rice. Our rice grows about 8 to 12 feet tall, so we have to bring it down to our level to actually knock it down into our G-man. So it's a unique process. So we have our knocking sticks, we have our Potawatomi sticks, we have our canoe, our G-man, and then we have ourselves, collecting that rice and offering tobacco, the main essentials to it, and laughter in our songs. You have to kind of sing with the rice and appreciate it because it's just like us.
And at the same time, the tools, the G-man, those things are made out of, those are at stake. Like, those are in jeopardy. So, like, the birch bark is nowhere in our territory right now because they were infested with, the beetle?
It was invasive species. And up north, they have a little bit more of that birch tree. Down south, we don't have too many birch. And cedar is kind of getting scarce. It grows in swampy areas.
And so that's how we depend on our three fires, because they live in different territories. And so they are able to kind of barter. We have this bartering system within our tribes. So our northern tribes so we have partnerships with them, and they'll come down where they have plentiful rice, and they come and teach us. And so it's like a constant trade. Like, so many of our elders have either walked on or aged, were taking on those teaching roles, but we still need those partners that do it for a living. And so they might belong to another tribe, a whole different tribe, like a Ottawa tribe or...
Yep, different territories.
So it's knowledge and materials that are being shared and bartered and traded.
Yep. We've always had that relationship, but colonization put up a border between our knowledge, created treaties, and forged words underneath the treaty, fraud and duress. So it kind of limits us by law to go certain places, but we've always had these friendship and partnerships with other tribes, different areas. So it's important to kind of practice these treaty rights and fight for our people's treaty rights.
So can you tell me a little bit more about the rice, just for folks who may not even be familiar with the lake rice, and how the lake rice is different from the river rice? And
so scientists, they have two different categories for the rice. The lake rice that you might have seen on the grocery store shelves, wild rice, is probably from the upper areas of Michigan, Wisconsin area, and scientists call it palustris. The river rice that we have that's in our areas that aren't on the shelves, it's called aquatica. So there's two different species, but it's the same ancestor. And our rice is a little bit smaller in size, but it's big in spirit. The northern rice is a little bit bigger, and it's so much of it to where people capitalize on it now and sell it. Different reservations have their own rights to certain areas in that location, and I only can speak for our rice, and our rice is protected by a law that we have to keep it sacred to our tribe. And we're not only harvesting it, but we're transplanting and restoration projects for it. So it's something that's unique to us that is a staple to our food sovereignty program and our sovereignty in general. So we're able to only get a little bit of the rice to feed our ceremonies at feast time and then appreciate it. We use it more of a medicine other than a food source, like a huge food source that is all through the grocery stores, It's just enough to feed our families when we have our ceremonies and some of our events that we sponsor. And then the ones that do rice all the time, well, every season they take it home and they make their dishes. So it's kind of like a delicacy for our people. And we really protect that. It's a really good grain.
Can you say more about the laws that are protecting the rice?
In Michigan right now, the wild rice is a state grain, so they're referring to both rices, but with our rice, it's very protected, and we're the only ones that can cultivate and deal with it and harvest it right now.
And that just happened under Governor Whitmer's administration.
Mm-hmm.
That just became the state grain.
Wow. And you are cultivating it in that you're planting more of it, you're transplanting it, you're scattering seed, you're finding places where it can grow, expanding it in the places that it's suitable.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of documented it on our social media page, and it ended up going viral when we transplanted because there was a private residence next to a property that we have. They wanted the space cleared out, and we just kind of went in there to get the plants and to put them somewhere else or either on our reservation.
Because they were going to remove them.
Yeah, and they wanted a clear space so they can see the water. And we didn't think anything about it. Like, we just went in and did it, and it ended up going viral. And there was so many different indigenous people and tribes that was like, you can do that. And so some of the plants took, and that was a huge process. First of all, you have to be tall, and you have to wear waders because when you transplant it back into the muck, you have to dig in, and then, there's turtles and snakes and leeches. And so, and I'm not a water person, so that was life-changing to me to get in the water because I'm not even, I don't even know how I did it to this day, but I just did it. It just was just something I just did. I didn't think nothing about it. I never had a leech on me, and for the first time in my life, I had a leech on me. Prior to this year's transplanting, I never been a wild rice person, I guess. I always attended the camps, but I was always cooking for the camp. So I never was out on the water harvesting because I'm not a water person. I don't like boats. I don't like swimming. I'll relax at the beach, but I'm not a water person.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we went to transplant, it was just so important to me that my first mindset was to go get the rice. If it's going to be harmed, our mission is to go get this rice. And so I didn't even think about the leeches or the snapping turtles. And after doing that, it's recognizing it. And so I don't know how to explain it, but it's just it changed my life. It made me appreciate the water a lot more, that this food that grows on it, with our food being in jeopardy now and the price of food and just everything that we're doing for our tribe with food, it just comes together. I've come full circle.
Nicole shared the story of her path to the position she now holds in her tribe, the Food Sovereignty Coordinator. She had worked as a youth specialist and then in a program supporting elders in the community. She organized activities for elders and built strong connections with the people she served. But it was emotionally difficult work.
We've lost a lot of relatives to poor diet and alcoholism, and I believe that alcohol is not a part of our diet, is not a part of who we are.
Many of these elders were not even making it into their 50s.
I was living on a reservation, and it was almost as if I was the nurse, the doctor, the person that they call before they call 911, and it took a huge toll on me. I was planning funerals, and it was back-to-back deaths that could be prevented through diet. And it just got very overwhelming, and I ended up taking a whole year off, and I pursued my art. I've always been an artist, and for the first time, I was able to really pursue my art, and I went into intensive therapy, and after each session, I painted whole paintings within 4 to 6 hours, just based on what I broke through during those sessions.
When she was ready to return to serving her tribe, the food sovereignty position was available, and she knew it was where she needed to be. It was a program that involved community gardening and returning to traditional foodways, including wild food gathering and fishing.
That's what our membership wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And the participation was just through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had so many first-time gardeners, so many people interested. While we are building this program, one of the things that I stand strong on is educating from the ground up and giving back what was taken away from us. And what I learned is that just giving our members these seeds and these garden beds, There was a little bit of bumps, but they were so excited after the plants. These first-time gardeners, I'm talking about 30 to 60 people, and the numbers keep going up on the participation.
They also have a program called Job Bank,
where our members come in and they can get a job if they don't fit those standards of working for our government, those background checks. And it's like our program has given those members a second chance, but we're healing. And it's everything that I've been working towards, those dots are finally connected. And people are understanding how much important this work is. And I wouldn't be able to do it without being sober. And now everybody is coming full circle. And that awakening moment is happening. And recently we were on a site visit in Arizona, and I got a call from a member that was, we recently had a salmon fishing trip. And one of the things that we ask is that, you kind of be sober on these trips. It's not mandatory, but it's just respectful so that, everybody's kind of on the same page, I guess. And he called during that rehab visit because we're trying to combine what we're doing at the farm with rehabilitation. So when our members come home, they have an environment to go to, a safe space. And he called me and he was so excited, and he was like, I understand what you're doing. He said, I understand what that salmon trip meant. He said, you want us sober? He said, I am here for you. I'm sober. And I want to teach our people how to fish because I want to do what you want us to do. And he was like, give me the supplies and I'll do it. Because we go outside and we think that everybody else has an answer, and the answer is within us. We are the people of our tribe, and we have it, and it's just getting everybody on the same page. And I get so frustrated because nobody seems like they don't get it. And then when they finally get it, I'm like, okay, we got it. Let's go. Run with me. Stop walking. Let's run. But the water and fishing and gardening and gathering, that's our answer, because that's the epitome of our culture, is our land and being stewards of the land.
I've been talking with Nicole Keith, Food Sovereignty Coordinator of the Nottawasepi Huron Band of the Potawatomi, also known as NHBP. With us in conversation was Kevin Harris, Cultural Specialist with the NHBP. They visited Bloomington in the fall of 2024 to share a film about wild lake rice with the First Nations Educational and Cultural Center on the IU campus, in partnership with the IU Media School. This conversation was edited for length, but we'll share the full conversation on our podcast feed at a later date. Find links to more information about their work on our website, eartheats.org. We'll be back after a short break. Stay with us. We're back. I'm Kate Young, and this is Earth Eats Wild. Driving down the road here in the middle of the country in the fall, you might notice some dark, burgundy-colored, pointed shapes jutting out from the dense foliage. From a distance, they look something like an upside-down ice cream cone, basically wider at the base and tapering up to a point. Once you notice it, you'll start seeing it all over, along trails and in parks, and not just in the Midwest. You'll find it throughout New England, too, for instance. It's called sumac, staghorn sumac. And guess what? It's edible. You may have heard of poison sumac, which causes a rash. Not the same plant. Here's how to tell the difference. Poison sumac has downward hanging loose clusters of off-white berries, and it grows in wet areas. Staghorn sumac has upright cones of densely packed red, fuzzy berries, and it grows in dry, disturbed soils. I asked Liz Bernhardt to take me out to her favorite spot to harvest some.
Road noise. Is that going to be a lot?
Okay, I mean, sometimes when you forage, you have to deal with traffic.
Yeah. And people look at you really weird.
You might remember Liz talking about elderberries on a previous Eats Wild episode. She took me to a church parking lot with access to a strip of thick vegetation along a busy road.
All right, here we go. We're going to hit a section up here, and then it's just all sumac, as far as the eye can see. So pretty. See these leaves, that like sawtooth leaf right there?
Yeah.
It is a super distinct plant. They kind of look tropical to me. These really distinct leaves, and then these just like beautiful pink fuzzy cones that sit on top of the trees.
Ooh, and so the leaves also turn red in the fall, don't they?
They do, yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so gorgeous.
So they just look like, when you get close to them, little clusters of like red berries. The delicious part of the sumac is there's like a fuzz that covers the berries, and it's got like a sort of like a tart lemony flavor, but you have to make sure that you harvest them in between rains because it's super water soluble, so when it has heavy rain, it's going to like wash off that little fuzz around the berry. It's like such an intense flavor.
There's no real trick to harvesting sumac,
Cut off the little horns.
but Liz learned the hard way that it might be a good idea to wear gloves. What happened?
I have a cut on my hand, and apparently it burns when you get sumac in open wounds.
Well, it makes sense with that lemony. We trekked back up to the church parking lot with more than enough dense clusters of staghorn sumac for experimenting at home. Awesome. This is so great. Thank you so much, Liz. Once I got home, I brewed some as is in water to make what some call sumac-ade. It's lemonade made with sumac. I sweetened it with sugar, but you could also use honey. It has a wonderful tart flavor, a lot like lemonade, but the color is a stunning deep red. Everyone I shared it with was pleased. I also dehydrated some and ground it up in a coffee grinder to separate the outer red part from the seed. The seeds are hard as stone. They cannot be eaten, but they can withstand the blade of a coffee mill. After grinding it, I sifted it through a loose sieve, which caught the seeds and let the rest pass through. This is now sumac that can be used as a spice. One caveat: it's best to harvest wild food away from busy roadways. Some plants might absorb pollutants from traffic. I'm familiar with sumac used in za'atar. It's a Middle Eastern spice blend with sesame seeds, salt, and thyme. I've had it sprinkled on hummus and lebna, a soft yogurt cheese served with olive oil drizzled on top. Daria Dohan told me about a Kurdish tradition in her hometown in Turkey of steeping sumac in water and then cooking with the broth. We met up in her kitchen so she could demonstrate preparing a favorite sumac-infused stew. I brought some of the sumac I'd harvested with Liz. I had some in its whole seed state and some with the hard seeds removed. That's the kind you would use to make za'atar. I noticed that Daria had the full seed type, and I asked her where she found it.
If you go to what we call charsha, kind of a marketplace, but it's basically there every day. It's not a bazaar. It's basically like a permanent marketplace. You go there, we call it charsha, and then they sell it there like this. Even not everywhere in Turkey. So actually what we are making today it's Kurdish cuisine. So it's Kurdish food. Because where I'm from is majority Kurdish population. And in other parts of the country, even you cannot find it sold like this. It's something uniquely from Southeast Anatolia.
It adds a distinctive lemony taste to dishes like dolmas, stuffed eggplant, peppers, and stews. Daria says many cultures have dishes like these, and they have different ways of bringing that sour flavor to the food.
And in Turkey, people largely they use lemon. They use lemon juice and they add water in the pot when, they prepare all of the stuffed peppers and grape leaves. And then they add water and they add lemon juice. They add like slices of lemon. But in my hometown, we use sumac, brewed sumac.
And it's kind of brewed like you would a tea, even though
Yeah.
it's not a tea.
Yeah.
So yeah, could I taste that? Just
Yes,
to see
please go
how
ahead.
Well, it's very sour. And Daria's going to use that sour sumac tea to flavor her stew. The stew features winter squash and traditionally chunks of beef or lamb. But today she's also making a vegetarian version using chickpeas. She had trouble finding the right variety of squash for her stew.
So because here, there are so many different types. There's the usual pumpkin. There is butternut squash. There's spaghetti squash, acorn. It's so many types, right?
She ended up going with butternut.
I asked people from Turkey. They said, to make a savory dish, this is the best one.
But now she's not so sure.
I'm gonna try making the same dish with the spaghetti squash next time to see maybe that is the right squash. I don't know. The ingredients are tomato paste, pepper paste, squash, meat, olive oil, some spices, and the spices I have are paprika, salt, pepper, turmeric, coriander, black pepper,
and a special blend of 5 different peppercorns that Daria makes herself. She starts the stews by heating up some oil in 2 pots, and then she adds about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste and 1 tablespoon of hot pepper paste. Next, she adds the spices, salt, and a bit more olive oil. Then she adds the cooked meat to 1 pot and cooked chickpeas to the other pot, and the peeled, cubed squash to both pots. She also adds water to both of them. She holds off on the brewed sumac. She'll add that closer to the end.
Before I was an exchange student, I came to the US as an exchange student when I was in high school, I was not a huge fan of stews, except the one my mom always makes in a clay pot that we call güveç. Other than that one, stews were not always my first preference. I always liked food that was not necessarily stew and rice, pasta or roasted stuff, or wraps, things that you can actually bite and eat, that was always my favorite type of food. And then when I was an exchange student here, I guess I had a lot of that kind of food. And then when I went back home, I was like, Mom, make me some stew, please. She was like, now you like it. Now you want it. But I never thought I would miss it.
Daria added the steeped sumac water to both pots of stew and let them simmer for another 10 minutes or so. Then it was time for a taste.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It's really good.
They were lemony and bright with the sumac, but also rich and warm winter stews. Daria served the winter squash stew topped with chopped raw garlic. She also served them with Persian rice, homemade pickles, and a popular Turkish side dish called hedari, featuring yogurt and salty cheese. I'm thrilled to learn new ways to cook with sumac in savory dishes, following Kurdish traditions shared by Daria Dawan.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Of course. Anytime.
Daria is a PhD candidate in Education Policy Studies in Middle Eastern Languages and Cultures at Indiana University. Find more from Daria on our website, eartheats.org.
Going down the road and there's apple tree hanging over the road, and do you stop and harvest it or not? I don't know. In America, you have to ask somebody, can we just pick these apples? Who should we ask? And that's a little bit different than Mongolia.
That's Grace from Worries Are Gone Farm. It's a diversified small farm in Indiana's hill country, and a labor of love for her and her partner, Chris Gonzo. I went out to Worries Are Gone to talk with Grace and Chris about foraging traditions in Mongolia. It was an important part of Grace's life as she was growing up there.
Yeah, my family, like in beginning of summer, we would go for alliums, like wild chives, and what's the flat thing? Like wild.
You can just say Mongolian words. Goed, mangr.
Yeah, gogot.
It's allium
Yeah,
species.
yeah.
You don't need to worry about
Gogot and mangr. Yeah, we preserve them in salt, and then sometimes we dry them and use them for meals. And after that, we went lots of berry picking, and like red currants, black currants, wild strawberries, and then in the fall, cherry mud, and
prunus
that,
species.
yeah,
Native to Mongolia.
and crabapple, urut, like tiny crabapple thing, urut, and what else?
I think the most interesting thing would be for you to describe like what it looks like. So, for one thing, the transition to private property in Mongolia happened in 1992, and that only happened in
Just
the villages.
in towns,
Yeah,
not
so-
in countryside. So people can go wherever and then harvest and pick fruit.
So
Yeah.
we're not like,
Wild
they're not
blueberries.
taking an afternoon and going to the Hoosier National Forest to find what they can find. When it's strawberry season, they go strawberrying. You know,
Yeah.
it's like everything's an ing. You know, we go nutting. And
Yeah.
what that means is they pack up camping gear and they ride out on horses and they
Tents,
camp for 3 days to a week. And
for blueberries.
and
not
all during
only.
the day they're picking fruit, you know, as much as they can, eating as much as they
liters and
can.
liters, and then we can preserve it, make jams. And
They're filling gunny sacks, old big rice sacks, and they're coming back with the horses loaded down. And that's like to make winter preserves,
yeah, it's a big project.
compote, and that like lasts them all year. So it's totally like, here's the kind of communal area where those species grow best. Everybody's open to it. The population density is low, and they just go. And it's like 3, 4, 5 days. They load up on what they have for a year. It's intensive, but they're having a great time camping. Usually it's like kids, you know, organized by an older adult, and they're playing games at night, cards, and then coming back hopefully with good produce.
And then we process for a couple days all that.
And the whole family's involved in that too.
Yeah, like I said, it's a big project, like preserving
The boys
fruit.
are hunting.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
the pine nuts. Yeah.
Pine nuts is huge.
That's very late in the fall. Yeah, beginning of winter, people camp out.
So for instance, can you describe like the crab apples, what those were like? Are they small, and then what would you do with them?
Yeah, they're really tiny, like that shape maybe. And
Like a blueberry.
yeah, like blueberry, and they ripen. We harvest them before they ripen, like kind of hard. When they ripen, they get kind of soft and mushy, right? And we harvest them when they're not quite ripe, and then bring them in a big sack, and then we put them in. Usually, put them in sheep or goat. What is it? Gudze, like stomach. Yeah, and then freeze them, and then it'll be fall, and then it'll freeze, and then we eat throughout the winter, and they're nice and soft and really like tart.
The sheep and goat stomachs are just containers, like Ziploc freezer bags. Grace told me about another winter treat they store in sheep stomachs. It starts with a Mongolian fruit similar to choke cherry. They grind it up, pits and all, and mix it with cream. Then they put it in the stomachs and freeze it, and use it as a spread throughout the winter. It's like a blueberry cream cheese, Chris said. Grace said more people are using electricity to freeze things these days, and that's when I realized I'd been wrong about how those winter treats were stored.
It's like naturally freezing.
So
like winter is coming in autumn. And
Mongolia.
I see. So you're making that right before the freezing season starts. Okay.
So Mongolia is close to Siberia, but you actually go down in elevation to Siberia. So it's
up,
it's
you
like
mean?
no, to Siberia. You go down. Mongolia's at like 10,000 feet.
So it's even colder than Siberia.
Colder than
Yes.
Siberia. So in fall, you can put something on the shady side of your house, and it's good until June.
I see. So heat is not an issue most of the time.
They can have
Changing as
snow
well.
in August. So.
That's changing as well. Yeah, you used to be able to go out and chop, get huge blocks of ice and put it on the north side of your house in the shade. And, it wouldn't, because it doesn't.
Melt.
Yeah. Yeah, it would last forever.
I think of berries as a hot summer fruit. So I was surprised by all of the berries Grace told me about foraging. Blueberries, a kind of wild raspberry, the choke cherries, currants.
And then the other big one is what we call sea buckthorn.
Ah, yeah.
That's huge in
Yes.
Mongolia.
Yes, and I don't think it's wild, but it's sea buckthorn.
What is sea
Is it
buckthorn?
wild? I thought people planted it.
They had some at the Bloomington Community Orchard, actually. We've had a hard time trying to grow it on our place. I don't know what the reason why we can't grow it.
But it's a berry?
Yeah, it'll get pretty big, 15 feet tall. It's got thorns. You have to have a male and female. It's like orange-colored super berries. They use it for a lot of juicing. It's super popular in
Make it
Russia,
snow and-
especially. Yeah, it's like got, one of those more
Does
vitamins.
it taste good as itself, or is it more something you make juice out of?
I think both.
Yeah, both. A little bit tart.
A little bit
Yeah, a little bit
tart,
tart, like citrusy. Oh,
But it's awesome.
But it's
Yeah,
really good.
a lot of people, because of the thorns, will harvest it by clipping off a branch, freezing it, and then knocking it against the freezer so you don't have to dodge the thorns.
Well, I'll have to check that out at the orchard and see if they've got one.
Yeah, it grows well. In Mongolia, one of the first places I lived there, it was in Dulanhan. It was just wild along the railroad tracks. I don't think it grows in the area where Grace is from very much, but it's being cultivated as a commercial crop now as well.
So because it has kind of a medicinal...
Yeah, it's a
Ton of
super
vitamin
fruit.
C,
Yeah.
Another fruit, dolorn. We have lots of it. What is it? Dolorn.
Yeah, what is it?
We have it on the
My Mongolian's rusty.
well, we have it here.
Yeah, what is it?
It's got little bit thorns.
Hawthorn?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
I do not know hawthorn either.
It kind of fruits like an apple.
Yeah. In Mongolia, we didn't really like it
You
that
kind of
much.
treat it like the same way as you do those crab apples, kind of, right?
No, we did make every once in a while jam or something, but there's the meat is so less than the seed. We didn't really like it.
Looks like a
we
crab
have
apple.
had it a lot.
They're grown all over Indiana. The Winter King is the cultivar hawthorn. You'll see it.
Okay.
Yeah. Beautiful tree. Yeah, there's tons of fruit in Mongolia, and it's a big part of their culture. Or it was. Hopefully, hopefully
Yeah.
it hasn't all disappeared.
That was Grace and Chris out at Worry's Argonne Farm in Indiana's Hill Country in Owen County. I spoke with them out at the farm in the summer of 2024. You can find more at eartheats.org. The best thing to do with a pawpaw is probably to just cut it open, grab a spoon, and just scoop out that rich custardy goodness straight out of the pawpaw and just eat it out of hand. If you end up with a lot of pawpaws, I think the best thing to make with it is ice cream. Pawpaw doesn't really taste very good when it's cooked, in my opinion. I'm sure there are people who make some great things with it. I've tried a couple of recipes like cookies and breads, like kind of like a persimmon bread sort of a thing. I just don't like how it tastes when it's cooked. So I think ice cream is the best because you don't end up actually cooking it. You retain that kind of fresh tropical pawpaw flavor. So that's what we're gonna do. The first thing you wanna do is extract the good part of the pawpaw from the rest of it, which basically means getting rid of the skin and the seeds. Now, I'm trying a new method, which basically involves sort of scoring them down the middle and then kind of cutting them in half and then just squeezing the pulp out away from the skin. It separates from the skin pretty easily, actually. But at this point, we're not separating the seeds at all. We're just pressing the pawpaw out of its skin. For this ice cream recipe, we need about 6 pawpaws, and I guess that just kind of depends on the size. But we're going to end up with 6 ounces of pulp is what we're hoping for. So I'm actually going to do a few more than that because mine are kind of small. You want your pawpaws to be extremely ripe. You want them to be very soft and just kind of squishing in your hands, basically. The inside of the pulp is a nice kind of creamy orange color. It's kind of a pale orange. And if you want to keep them for a while before you use them, you're going to want to put them in the fridge. The fridge will turn the outsides of the pawpaws black, or just kind of a dark brown, but that's okay. They're still fine inside, and that will preserve them a little bit longer. If you just set them out on your counter, they're not going to last very long. All right, so I got all the pawpaws separated from their skins, and now I'm going to try to separate them from their seeds. The seeds are pretty large. They're about, I don't know, the size of the first section of your pinky finger or something. They are dark and they're kind of shiny. But the thing about them is that you can't just like put them in a food mill and separate them out that way because they'll get stuck on the blade and everything. It's just, it doesn't work. But I saw something on YouTube where somebody had put their pulp with their seeds into their food processor and they used like a dough blade and just kind of mixed it up really good. And that allowed the seeds to separate without actually getting ground up or anything. Now, I don't have that kind of food processor, but I do have a KitchenAid stand mixer and I'm just going to use like the paddle attachment because I think it'll do a similar thing. Okay, I think that worked pretty good. I mean, the machine was bucking a little bit, but that's okay. So now I'm going to the next step is to push it through a sieve, but you don't want it to be too fine of a sieve, just like a loose colander. And what the person in the YouTube video did, which I'm going to link to it, don't worry. I think her name was the Appalachian Forager. What she did was she put it through a salad spinner, the basket part of a salad spinner. So I'm going to try that. All right, well, it's still a bit of a mess, but it is working. Okay, so I have weighed out what we have, and we already have 8 ounces of the pawpaw pulp. And I just normally, so there's still a little left on these seeds, and normally I would just keep working this until I got every last drop. But honestly, this is such a mess that I think I'm just going to stop right here and just say, all right, we have what we need for our ice cream. In fact, we have more than we need, and I'm just going to go forward with it. The next step would be making a basic custard for ice cream, which is going to involve cream and eggs and sugar. And we're going to do all that. Once it's cooled, we're going to combine that with this pawpaw puree. Then we'll put it in the ice cream maker and make ice cream. Now we're going to make the vanilla custard, which we're then going to add the pawpaw to make our pawpaw ice cream. The ingredients are 2 cups of half and half, 2 cups of heavy cream, 1 1/4 cups of sugar, and then either vanilla beans, vanilla bean pods where you sort of scrape out the middle, or if you don't have that, you can just use vanilla extract, and I'm going to use 2 teaspoons. Okay, we have the 2 cups of half and half, 2 cups of heavy cream, 1 1/4 cups of sugar, and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. We're going to put that on the stove and heat it up just until steaming. This recipe calls for 8 egg yolks. And when you're separating your eggs, you're going to want to put them in a large bowl because we're going to be using that bowl to sort of temper the eggs so that we don't actually kind of scramble them when we're adding them to this liquid. And basically, as soon as you see some steam starting to rise from that cream mixture, you're going to want to take it off the heat. All right, we're there. And now we are just going to gradually whisk just like a 1/4 cup of the cream into the egg yolk. And it looks like we successfully tempered our eggs. I see no scrambled eggs in there. I see no lumps or anything. Looks really good. Once you've tempered the egg yolks, you can pour the whole thing into the cream mixture. Once you pour the egg mixture into the cream mixture, you want to stir it slowly for about 4 to 5 minutes using a wooden spoon until the mixture coats the back of the spoon. The next step is to pour the mixture through a sieve to strain it. That just gets out any little bits or lumps that might have formed. When you're heating up dairy, that inevitably will happen. So go ahead and strain it through a fine mesh strainer, and then we'll chill it. Once it's chilled, we'll add the Pawpaw and get it into the ice cream maker. And I've poured it into a separate container so that it will cool down faster. And I'm also going to cover it with something so that a film doesn't form over it while it's cooling. Okay, so our ice cream custard and our Pawpaw puree have been chilling in the fridge overnight. And now it's time to blend them together and get them into the ice cream maker. I think that's pretty well blended. It's going to get more blending in the ice cream maker before it completely freezes. All right, let's let it rip. Okay, the ice cream has been churning for about 30 minutes. And it looks ready. Let's give it a taste. Oh, that's so good. It really has a tropical flavor to it. It's almost pineapple-y, but also just so creamy and kind of coconut. I don't know, it's really good. It's Pawpaw. That's it, Pawpaw ice cream. The best way to use Pawpaws. That story was produced by Alexis Carvajal, one of so many wonderful people who have made this show come to life week after week for more than 15 years. I'm thinking specifically of Annie Corrigan, the founder, original host, and producer of Earth Eats. She set the blueprint for this show along with Chef Daniel Orr. The idea was to explore the world of food from all different angles. Yes, we visited farms and gardens. We talked with chefs and prepared delicious recipes. But we also engaged in thoughtful conversation with people who help us understand the complexities of our food system. We talked about our favorite recipes from home, from our childhoods, from faraway places, the link between food and memory. And most recently, we explored the food that can be found all around us, wild food, through our Eats Wild series. I hope you've enjoyed listening to our show over the years. I know for me, it's been a blast and an honor to bring you these food stories each week. And this is our last episode of Earth Eats. I'll still be exploring food in my new show, Nice Work, but I'll be expanding my scope beyond the culinary arts to include all sorts of arts and culture in our community. You can still find us at eartheats.org. Almost all of the past episodes and recipes are still there, and you can listen to many of the recent shows on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube. Just search for Earth Eats. As always, and for the last time, thanks for listening. The Earth Eats team has included many people not named here, but currently it's Eobon Binder, Alex Chambers, Aaron Kane, Toby Foster, Luann Johnson, Leo Pies, Samantha Shimenauer, and we partner with Harvest Public Media. Special thanks this week to Alexis Carvajal, Liz Barnhart, Daria Dewan, Chris and Grace at Worry's Argonne Farm, Nicole Keith, Kevin Harris, Aidan Kawate, and Shireen Gotson-Ung at First Nations Educational and Cultural Center at Indiana University. Earth Eats is produced and edited by me, Kate Young. Our theme music is composed by Aaron Toby and performed by Aaron and Matt Toby. Additional music on the show comes to us from Universal Production Music. Our executive producer is Eric Bolstridge.